Hello, um, my name is Corey. Let's do this. So today I want to talk about how we could build a series of tabs, kind of like the browser. So you click on one tab's header and you see the content on that tab. If you click another tab, you'll see the content on that tab. So let's get started. We're going to be doing this in React and using class components as well. So I'm going to share my screen and let's go. So if you're here for the last tutorial, we made this autocomplete where we can type people in and select them and complete things. If you weren't here, go back and watch the last video if you want to see it, although there's no prior knowledge of that for this one. So I'm going to create our tabs here so that I have something to work off of. And so each tab is an object with the key header and the key content. So at any given time, I want to be able to see all of the headers, and I want to be able to just see the one content of the specific header that we are looking at. Okay, so let's go ahead and start building. So I'm going to start off by adding tabs here and calling this tabs down here and passing in our tabs like so. Let's go ahead and build this. So I already have a components folder. I'm going to make a new file inside of it, and I'm going to call this tabs.js. And let's go ahead and import React from React. And in the last video, I pulled out the component. This time I won't, so you can see both ways. And we'll say class tabs extends, misspell things, extends react.component. I know I'm going to need a render, but before that, let's just export default our tabs. And let's go ahead and add our render, the only required lifecycle method. And we'll add a return. And for now, I'm just going to return another section. I'm not really sure what I want to write in here, but we can say h2 and say that this is going to be our tabs. So let's make sure that things are connected. Let's also import this. So I'm just going to import this tabs and then the relative path. So component/tabs. And we should see tabs here. So for the time being, I'm actually going to comment out the autocomplete so our eyes are only focusing on the one component. Okay, and I'm going to close this so that we have a little bit more space. So now we've got the framework for tabs, and we have our props. So let's go ahead and pull out our tabs for props. So I'll say tabs is equal to this.props.tabs. And let's just pretend we wanted to iterate through all of them. So I will say, let's say I just want the header of all of them. So I can say tabs.map, and for every single tab, I want to display inside of, let's say, an li, our tab. So I will say tab dot, I think it's header. And let's go ahead and see how that affects our code. So it doesn't look like I'm seeing anything. Let me refresh and make sure. So for some reason, I'm not seeing anything. So maybe I didn't call it header. I did. Maybe we don't have our props the way I'm thinking we do. So why don't we console log tabs and make sure that we are actually bringing them to the console, which we are. And we are able to map through these, which we should be able to as well. So we say tabs, and we see string. So I do notice that I'm not returning. I usually do implicit returns when I'm writing runline, but instead I need to return something. So I'm probably just returning undefined in our map. So I'm getting undefined, undefined, undefined as our array, which isn't registering the tabs. So here we have our headers. So that's kind of cool. Let's go ahead and keep building. So depending on the header that's selected, we want to actually show the content of that specific header. So let's go ahead and create a state. And inside of our state, let's just call this, oops, instead of our state, let's call this selected tab. And I'm going to start this at 0 because this is going to be the 0th tab that I have. So I'm going to add that there. I'm going to pull this out of state. So const selected tab is going to be this dot state. So now I have access to it. I'm going to stop console logging our tabs here. And in an area below, let's go ahead and make this our tab. So I will say, let's put this in a div for now. And I want to do our tabs at selected tab. So I can select the tab, and I want to show its content. So we have first tab showing. Well, that's cool. Okay. And so let's also then make it so if I click on 2, we're going to see the 2 tab showing. So we're going to need to have a click listener here. So I'm also going to want to use their index. So I'm going to keep track of their index by saying tab, and I'm also going to have their index in this map. So this is the index we'll be using. So on click of this li, we can fire a function that says this dot update tab. And I actually want to be able to pass in the index that I'm on. So maybe I can add a value property here, or I could pass it right here and say I want to pass index I. So then here I have to make an anonymous callback because we have to have a callback function in here. If I just had this, I'd be invoking my function, and I don't want to invoke the function until something's actually clicked. So let's go ahead and write update tab. Update tab is going to take in the new index. And all this is going to do is set the state of our selected tab. Selected tab. Oops, let me make that clear. Selected tab has to be in an object to our new index. So I save that. And let's go ahead and give this a shot now. So if I click on 2, I see second tab content showing. If I click on 3, I see third tab content showing. If I click on 2, I see that. If I click on 1, so essentially I've already actually got this working, and it's really not a whole lot of code if you look at it. So this is a pretty big win. I would like for our tab, the one that's selected, to have bold lettering instead of not bold lettering. So let's go ahead and see what something like that would look like. So let's create a variable here. And I'm going to say const bold it. I'll say is bold. And what bold will be is it's going to say selected tab. Hang on. Okay, getting ahead of myself. We can just do this in our check here. So we can give a different class name for things that are active. So let me see if I can print this. Let me make this that's one line. So I don't really need a lot of logic here. So this is going to be implicit return. And I'm going to split this up. So we have our li for our on click. And I'm also going to add a class name property. So we can add a little bit of styling to this. So our class name is going to either be whether or not our selected tab is equal to this index. So selected tab equal to I. So if that's true, we're going to pass the case active. Else, we're not going to pass anything as the class name. And for some reason, I'm getting an error, and that's because I have an extra curly bracket here instead. So sorry about that confusion. So let's just recap what we just said. So we're adding a class name, and for each element, as we're iterating through this header, we're saying selected tab is going to equal I. If it is equal to I, we want to have the class name active. If it's not, we don't want to have anything. And that way we can style active to be a font weight that's bold. I'm having a semicolon doesn't belong. And so let's go ahead and get some styles. So I'm going to go make another file. And I'm going to call this tabs.css. And I'm going to, before I forget, I'm going to import it into my tabs.js. So import /tabs.css. Here, I'm going to make my class active. And active things should have a font weight of 4. So we see that 1 is bold because 1 is currently our one selected. If we click on 3, 3 becomes bold, and we see that as well. So we've got all of the functionality now, and it's all working. So we could, there's not too much left to do. I mean, we've essentially completed it. Now we can style it if we want. So maybe for this section, I will call this class name. I can call this tabs container. And I can give those a list style none. And I can wrap these inside of I think a menu tag makes sense. That might not perfectly be the right thing. Well, we can take a look. Menu, CSS, HTML tag. See if that's a good one. So permitted content if the element is in a list in a menu. Yeah, it's okay. So we'll have a menu tag, and we have our tabs container. And let's go ahead and target the tabs containers menu. So I'll say dot tabs container, and we'll say inside of that the menu, which I'm going to say display flex. I'm going to say list style none. Let's see what that does. So that makes it so we have our 1, 2, and 3. This is looking more and more like a tab. Let's go ahead and check the width of these things. So right now the div and the section, everything is width 100, except for the menu. Oh, the menu too. So it would be nice if these were, each LI had some padding. So let's go ahead and do that. Say padding, we'll say 5 pixels. See what kind of difference that makes. Let's go ahead and give these a line to set like kind of a border to separate each actual element. So we can say border 1 pixel, solid black. So then we have our 1, 3. Let's give these each LI a minimum width so that it's consistent at least of 100 pixels. And so now we've got these tabs that we can select. I would like the hover on the LI to give our mouse a cursor. So let's go ahead and do that. cursor pointer. I mean, so now it feels like I'm really clicking on something. And we could even give our entire, not the tabs container, but like we could fill this section so that this feels as part of one thing if we wanted to. But I think this is pretty good, and I'm pretty satisfied with the way that this looks. So let's go back to our app. Let's add our autocomplete in here. So we've got our search, which is really cool. And then we also have our tabs. So hopefully you learned something today, right? Just to recap, we are getting our tabs, passing them in as props. Each one is an array of objects. In tabs.js, all we're doing is mapping through them and keeping track of the index on each li here. For the click, we are updating the tab to be this index, which is essentially just updating our state to be the next tab. We're also assigning a class depending on if our selected tab matches our current index. And then lower on, we're just displaying the content of the selected tab. So hopefully you learned something, and thank you so much for watching. Ask your questions in the comments below. Thanks. Bye-bye.